So good afternoon everyone. So we welcome you back to this session on static news and static current affairs that are associated with the phenomenon of having a good understanding of your static portions that will be very much helpful for you in your upcoming mains. Okay, so this is what we were trying to give you and deliver you some of the basic fundamental elements of the static portions. Okay, so without wasting time, as we are a brief late because of some of the technical errors that we have on our side. So let's start with the analysis of today's context. Okay, so the first topic, which is directly about the Forest Rights Act. Okay, so human wildlife conflict is mostly discussed in regard to areas outside PA, but this observation of court is very specific, highlighting the impact human life includes in the respective area. So why this Forest Rights Act came into prominence? So when I say about Forest Rights Act, so what is this? So we know this act was enacted back in 2006, which recognizes the rights of the forest dwelling tribal communities and other traditional forest dwellers to dwell in their forest, collecting various number of resources, who were very much dependent for a variety of needs, including livelihoods, habitation, and even various number of socio-cultural needs with respective to the forest. So obviously this recognizes and vests the forest rights and occupation forest land in forest dwelling scheduled tribal areas and also various number of other traditional forest dwellers. So therefore today we could see that this becomes very important for the people who are basically scheduled tribe and various other forest dwellers who have been residing in such forest generations for which rights could not be recorded. Okay, so we have seen that there are various rights under this particular act. It may be the title rights, okay, that is the ownership is only for land that is actually being cultivated. Okay, so this is one of the activities. Then also we could see about the use rights, that is basically for the minor forest produce. Also we can see about the relief and developmental rights, which are in case of illegal eviction or forced displacements. Also we have got rights in association with the forest management rights, which are basically to protect, regenerate, conserve, or even manage by any communities who are basically forest dwellers. So there are a good number of significance of this Forest Rights Act, basically going for its constitutional provisions, also the security concerns, the forest governance, etc. So therefore in this scenario, if I have to take cognizance of the forest dwellers, I have to see that what are the type of challenges today the forest dwellers are basically facing with respect to their rights. So today we can see that they have been massively displaced without any protection, and this makes the dilution of the act. This dilution of the act for their respective rights and for their protection is no more a favor for their individual rights, rather they are serving the scope of the person who are attached with some form of investment as well as some form of rapid industrialization in the areas associated with the forest. So therefore it becomes important that government at the center and the state levels are strengthened with human and financial resources to help implement this Forest Rights Act on a mission mode. Okay, so therefore besides leveraging modern technology to map and monitor the implementation of the FRA, the forest bureaucracy must also be reformed to service as a service providers in basically the areas which are maintained by this forest people. Okay, so therefore this rights, okay, has got a good connotations where I can directly say that recognizing and vesting forest rights to local people is under the ambit of FRA, and FRA vests a particular significant right to forest dwellers. So if I have to see about the issues, we can see that they are not eligible for various number of communities who are associated with this 5 years tenure, and therefore it is very much significant for this part where we have to see about extraction of this forest resources basically concentrated on the tribal communities. Okay, next if I have to see about the graded response action plan. So what does this mean? So the plan was prepared by the Supreme Court mandated Environmental Pollution Control Authority, which is the EPCA. And it lays down certain stratified actions when concentration of particulate matter reaches at the level of 100 micrograms per cubic meter. Okay, so obviously if I have to say about the graded response mean, I have to say that there are various measurements which have been taken upon about the graded response action. The first topic that says is the traffic police personnel have to ensure smooth flow of traffic and enforcing pollution under control. And the Union Environment Ministry recently notified and graded response action plan against air pollution for Delhi and the National Capital Region. So this is basically to serve the pollution aspect that we can see today in our society. So therefore the action plan which was formulated in 2016 and was notified in 2017 for basically the regions like Delhi, because we know that Delhi has got a huge concentration of what? Pollution related activities. And this plan formulated after several meetings when held by the Environment Pollution Prevention and Control Authority with state government and representatives and experts. So these are institutionalized measures to be taken when air quality deteriorates and hence works only as emergency measures. So therefore this graded response action plan, okay, it includes the measures that will be taken by different government agencies to prevent the worsening of the air quality, and that is basically for the Delhi NCR to prevent the PM10 and PM2.5 levels to go beyond the moderate National Air Quality Index category. So obviously today if you see that the plan requires action and coordination among different regions as well as states. Supposedly today this plan is required in Delhi, it requires in UP, it requires in Haryana, it requires in Rajasthan, which are basically coming under the NCR areas. So today there are various number of responses that has been taken by this Environmental Pollution Control Authority to mainly control stubble burning, shifting of the jet streams and even stagnant lower level of winds. So today this EPCA, which is basically a Supreme Court mandated body which was tasked with the various measures to tackle air pollution in the NCR region, is under various stress to make pollution under control in this national capital, and therefore they are today working very hard so that we could be we could directly lead to zero tolerance for various number of air pollution during the period of the maximum level of pollution that we can see today in the Delhi NCR. Okay, then obviously we know that pollution directly comes at a huge human health cost. Okay, so that was in aspect of this particular thing which is known as the response action, which is basically said about the response that has been taken by the Delhi NCR, and the same is known as the GRAP, Graded Response Action Plan. Okay, next, fight against pollution. So a look into the city's graded response action plan for fighting air pollution. So you can see about the stage 1, which is moderate, stage 2 very poor air, stage 3 severely polluted air, and stage 4 that is emergency polluted air. Okay, so you can see what are the beginnings that has been done with respect to this particular pollution that we can see under the graded response action plan. Next, coming to the oil spills. It is one of the major national hazard that today we can see today not only in our country but across the globe. Okay, so today if I have to say about what is basically this oil spills. Okay, so we have to see that oil spill refers to any uncontrolled release of crude oil, gasoline oil, fuels or oil byproducts in the environment. And therefore oil spills can pollute land, air or water, though it is mostly used for oceanic oil spills. So what are the major causes for these oil spills? See, oil spills have become a major environmental problem chiefly as a result of some of the intensified petroleum exploration and production. So oil spills that happen in rivers and in the oceans mostly often are caused by accidents involving tankers, barges, pipelines, refineries, drilling rigs and storage facilities. But it also occurs from recreational boats and natural disasters. So today we can see that oil spills has got environmental impacts. It is directly a threat to indigenous people. It is harmful to the aquatic life. It is also going for hypothermia, which is basically said to be the decrease in body temperature to below normal level. So today we can see hypothermia in between the species that are inside this particular water. And also it makes the region very toxic because the ingested oil can be toxic to affect animals and damage their habit and reproductive rates. Today these oil spills are also threat to the mangroves, which are the saltwater marshes, which are frequently suffering from this oil spills. And this oil spills not only has got impact on the environment, it impacts the tourism sector, it impacts the power plants, it impacts the fishing sector. So today we have got all such number of problems just because of this oil spill. So you can see the diagram, you can see the picture of an oil spill, that how it directly makes the very environment polluted. Okay, so we have various number of action plans that we can see with respect to this oil spills. We can see about bioremediation, okay, where bacteria can be used to clean up oil spills in the oceans through this process, where specific bacteria can be bioremediated, specific contaminants such as hydrocarbons which are present in oil and gasoline. So also using bacteria like the Parapellucidaka, which is one of the important bacteria. Also I can say about the Cycloclasticus, also Olaspora, and also the Thalassoletus. So all these particular bacteria are some of the important ones that can help remove several classes of contaminants. Okay, so therefore this contaminant booms, floating barriers, are used to restrict the spread to oil and allow for its recovery, removal or disposal. Okay, so at some point of time we could see that these dispersing agents or the chemicals that contain surfactants or compounds that act to break liquid substances as an oil and small droplets can be used under this criteria. So we have got some of the relative laws in our country. Supposedly we have got the National Oil Spill Disaster Contingency Plan of 1996. Okay, also we could see about the Indian Coast Guards, who has got a mandate to coordinate with state departments, ministries, port authorities and also environmental agencies to assist in oil spill cleaning operations. So today we could see that though some of the operations though has been taken upon by our country, even it was administered by the International Maritime Organization, which is where the India is also liable to directly protect its uses associated with oil spill. Okay, so that is, you can see about dispersion, burning and skimming. So these are some of the process which are going for the oil spills. Okay, next. Coming to air pollution. Okay, so in 2017, as many as 5.39 million people died prematurely from exposure to air pollution globally. So you can directly see this one. So how you can see that more people died from air pollution than from HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis and malaria combined. Okay, so you can see the criteria why we are directly referring about air pollution. So you can see that the metabolic risks are subse high, then dietary risks, tobacco, air pollution, malnutrition, wash and low physical activity. So people are dying just because more and more because of this phenomenon which is known as air pollution. Okay, so I can say about the air pollution, you can see the symptoms, carbon dioxide poisonous symptoms, all the symptoms are there with respect to air pollution. So today if I say about the air pollution, what does it mean? So it is the presence of compounds, air pollutants in the atmosphere that are hazardous to human health and the health of other living things or impact the climate or materials. So what are these air pollutants which is basically responsible for air pollution? So there are many different types of air pollutants. It may be such as gases, such as ammonia, be it like carbon monoxide, be it like sulfur dioxide, be it like nitrous oxide, okay, methane, chlorofluorocarbons, and also some of the particulate matters, be it organic or inorganic, and also some of the biological molecules are present. So today if I have to say about some of the primary pollutants, some of the secondary pollutants, okay, so I can directly say that these primary pollutants and the secondary pollutants are very important, which directly makes the air pollution crucial in this category of pollutants. So I can see that when I have to say about the symptoms with respective to air pollution, so there may be low levels of headache, dizziness, okay, and also higher concentration, impaired vision, disturbed coordination, and eventually death. Okay, so therefore we can see that this is the directly the pathway. Okay, exposure to NO2 comes from the air we breathe. Okay, and this may ultimately affects the respective lungs. Okay, so we can see respiratory system, that cardiovascular system. Okay, also the groups which are more at risk are the elderly, those with lung disease, and also the people who are children. Okay, so we can see what are the sources associated with the nitrogen dioxide. So motor vehicle exhaust, industry. So এইবিলাক বস্তু আহি যায় ক'ত in this respective element of air pollution. Okay, so ইয়াতে ozone এটা responsible factor হয়. Okay, because ozone we all know about the system, how this ozone is basically making our lives also very much of today, because of the ozone layer we can see that the ultraviolet rays directly coming in from the sun is directly not reaching us, which is preventing us from the skin cancer. Okay, but still ozone at some point of time is also dangerous. Okay, so etu bostu amar lage, so therefore ozone is also one of the main component of smog, which is basically harmful during the time of air pollutants. Okay, so you can see there are various number of effects of sulfur dioxide concentration. Maximum exposure for 30 minutes, irritating to the eyes, irritating to the nose and throat, easily detectable through smell, permissible exposure limit. Sulfur dioxide is primarily detectable through test. Okay, so a gutte bostu bilak ahi jay with respective to the areas associated with the elements of air pollution. Okay, so you can see the sources of pollution, power plants, construction of roads, dust. Okay, you can see brick kilns, emissions, biomass burning. Then you can see the industries, open waste burning, transportation. So these are all some of the factors of sources of air pollution where various number of gases are directly getting emitted. So you can see industries, 98% of the sulfur dioxide, 60% of the nitrogen oxide. Okay, in Delhi, where the result of the pollution from thermal power plants, household burning of solid fuels like wood, agriculture waste, automobiles, 20% of the deadly particulate matter in Delhi released from automobiles additionally. So you can see this one also. So here the kiman ase sob ebar note kori lobo para. This can be useful for you in the essay. Okay, or in various number of your answer writings. Okay, so here the hekini sai lobo para. Okay, so you can see vehicles as here, then smoking as industry, biomass, dust, others, coal burning, household heating. Okay, so you can see vehicles contribute to the mass number, that is around 27.8%, and this is the major source of pollution today in every cities. So this is a day affair of every cities today because of the pollution that has been created just because of this vehicles. Okay, so air pollution in India suffers from the multifaceted problems in the following ways: lack of comprehensive national action plan, lack of decisive and persistent policy actions. Okay, then also a graded response action plan and ecomark level. Okay, so all this air quality index. Then you can see government is taking active steps to promote LPG gas in rural households through Ujjwala scheme. That we can see measures that can be taken. So you can see use non-toxic cleaning and supplies, get rid of your lawn. Okay, then reduce, reuse and recycle. Then we can see about this one, that is to conserve water, then eat less meat, then share a ride, and also don't support polluting components. So এইবিলাক বস্তু গোটেইখিনি আহি যায় in this particular criteria. Okay, then you can see reduce junk meal. Okay, drink tap water. Obviously this should be very much cleaner. Okay, so এই গোটেইখিনি ইয়াতে আহি যায় when you want to directly change your respective areas, your effects of air pollution in the society. Also, we have to take various number of protocols and also various number of steps, be it through district wise, be it through country wise, be it through state wise. আমি এইবিলাক বস্তু ল'ব লাগিব, then only we can make this thing very much of cleaner in the coming times. Okay, chalo. Next, if I have to see about protection of communities in preserving wildlife or all such number of wild or forest, or basically said to be forest management. So today there are various number of steps taken by India to involve local communities in forest management. So I can say about the first one being the National Forest Policy Act 1988. Also we can see about the foreign development agencies. Also we can say about the eco development committees. So all these particular elements are essential for us to directly take hold of such number of criteria which is directly helping us in various number of efforts. So today, why local participation is not effective? Why there is been a lacuna? See, many of the centrally sponsored programs, be it the Project Tiger, the management, or even I can say about the fire management. Also, if I have to say about the irrigated development of wildlife habitats, then if I have to say about the CAMPA, compensatory afforestation management and planning authorities, which lacks policy support to ensure the participation of the communities via the institutions, joint forest management committees. So obviously, it slowly made their participation customary. And therefore, the role of local institutions of gram panchayats or joint forest management committees is now restricted to be consultative institution instead of being paid partners in planning and implementation. So today there is a need to intensive local communities participation approximately and ensure fund flow for restoration of interventions. So therefore, political priority and appropriate policy intervention as done recently in Telangana needs to be replicated on the states. So today Telangana has created a provision for a green fund or Telangana Harita Nidhi for tree planting and related activities. So this type of ideas which we can see today in our states, this can directly make the conservation efforts more fruitful. So today if I have to see about the role of local communities, you can see that biodiversity conservation or protection of wildlife population is one of the crucial role. Okay. So therefore today we have to say about the increased participation and commitment of local communities in protection of these habitats. And therefore we can see that increased provisions of benefits from the conservation of communities for local development needs to be enhanced. And therefore it needs what? A joint venture agreement with investors to increase revenue for the conservation, particularly for tourism. So you can see that if the tourist needs to conserve this particular forest, if he comes to get hold of this wildlife, then obviously at some point of time, he needs to look forward with various number of conservative efforts so that the conservation of the biodiversity can be wholesomely fruitful. Okay, so yata jodi moi kom about the background, you can see that in this particular area known as Asaranga, 60 km east of Puri, Orissa, a community-led initiative has provided the endangered olive ridley turtle a new nesting ground. Okay, so the record nesting of turtle eggs at Asaranga is due to the efforts of the Green Light Rural Association, which is a non-profit based in Asaranga. So you can see about that how the community has participated in making the olive ridley turtles very much of proximal and also their nesting ground very much of helpful so that they can directly glorify their eggs, they can directly lay their eggs down, and also we can increase the population of this olive ridley turtles in this particular area. So that is the type of conservation efforts that we need to take. Okay. Also, the conservation should be with respect for local traditions and alternative means of livelihood. Community patrolling is also needed, and appreciation for conservation efforts are also one of the prime area why we need to have a proper allocations of this particular resources. Okay, so a bostu kini amak lagibo. So you can see even the role of forest guards are also very important, because without the role of forest guards you cannot directly have a protection of these animals. So today if I have to say about the Kaziranga, the rhino protection force. Okay, so jodi moi rhino protection force or kotha kom aji. So this rhino protection force has a good role in maintaining the one-horn rhinoceros. Okay, they have a good role in maintaining this one-horn rhinoceros. And therefore, when we have to maintain this one-horn rhinoceros, it is very easier. It is very, it is very much needed for us to maintain the proximity of this rhino in the Kaziranga National Park. Our Kaziranga National Park or a rhino protection to our kind of बहुत important होई जाए. Because without this, it would be very much difficult for us to have a control and a safeguard of this particular forest or of this particular wild animals. So, एकनी हमारा role of forest guard तो याते बहुत important होई जाए. Because they are a key component in the task of forest protection and development, as they form the basic unit of ground force, and being the first responsible person for any forest related activity, forest guards holds a very crucial position in bureaucratic hierarchy of forest department. Okay, so that is one of the important aspects. Okay, who takes care of the wildlife, who guards the fields. Okay, also they are accompanied by foresters who protect the forest from environmental danger such as forest fire. But today we can see that there are various challenges that are faced by forest guards in India, and what are the types of challenges that we can face. Okay, so we can see that states with the most cases under the Wildlife Protection Act of 2019 are this. States with the most cases under the Indian Forest Act are this, and states with the most cases under the Environment Protection Act are this. So today we can see that in Bihar, members of a timber mafia killed forest guard Arjun Yadav and Hiralal Kushwaha in the Valmiki Tiger Reserve in Bihar's West Champaran district in January 2019. So they are often being targeted by various individuals or mafias basically for their respective work, which is protection. Also, Uttar Pradesh timber smugglers do not shoot down Deputy Ranger D.N. Pandey of State Forest Department in Gorakhpur's Ramal Khana Forest in July 2018. Also in Chhattisgarh, Maoists had to death Forest Ranger Ratharam Patel in Bijapur district in September 2020. Okay. Also, illegal sand miners in Bundi kill forest guard Saya Singh in April 2013, and another forest guard Kanti Lal Bhill is killed in Jalore in 2016. So you can see the contributions of the forest guards as well as the forest officers who are basically assigned the duty to conserve the forest as well as the respective wildlife as well as the protection that we can see with respect to every amenities associated with forest. Okay. So therefore, these huge challenges which are faced by forest guards in state border areas due to varied laws and practices, and also because of lack of interstate cooperation, is still a big challenge between the forest. So today we can see that what is the type of role that we are performing between Assam as well as Meghalaya. So আজি Assam আৰু মেঘালয়ৰ মাজত যিখিনি ফৰেষ্ট এৰিয়া লৈ পেলাই আজি কাজিয়া লাগি আছে, Assam আৰু অৰুণাচলৰ মাজত যিখিনি ফৰেষ্ট এৰিয়া লৈ কাজিয়া লাগি আছে, Assam আৰু মিজোৰামৰ মাজত যিখিনি ফৰেষ্ট এৰিয়া লৈ কাজিয়া লাগি আছে. So obviously we cannot expect interstate cooperation between all these particular states, and therefore we can see that interstate cooperation is purely failing in a country like us. Okay, so ekini amar kisuman আজি drawbacks ase which we need to tackle up soon, so that we can see about that how this particular people needs to be enhanced, how this particular people needs to be more motivated and trained so that they could guard the forest much well. Okay. Next I will hydrofluorocarbons. Okay. So if I say about hydrofluorocarbons, so hydrofluorocarbons boli kole ki ahi jabo. So we can see that it's an organic compound or groups that includes carbon, fluorine and hydrogen. Ki ki thake? Carbon, fluorine and hydrogen. Ei tinta bostu thake. Ko thake in this hydrochlorofluorocarbons. So these HFCs are one of the greenhouse gases, jikhini ami kaho GHG bolis, that are commonly used by government agencies in a wide range of applications such as refrigerations, air cooling, building, institutions, fire extinguisher systems and also aerosols. So these HFCs decompose relatively quickly once released into the atmosphere as compared to CFCs. So obviously HFCs do not cause much damage to the ozone layer as the compounds they replace, but yes, this particular HFCs directly contribute towards global warming. Okay, and therefore the atmospheric concentrations and contribution to anthropogenic greenhouse gases emissions are rapidly increasing, raising concern about their radiative forcing on a global scale. And therefore you can see that how this hydrofluorocarbons, what is the consumption that we can see with the use of residential, commercial, industrial 47%. We can see about the mobile air conditioning 24%. We can see about the foam agents, we can see about the unitary air conditionings, we can see about the aerosols, we can see about the extinguisher and solvents. Okay, we can see about the HFC consumption per day. Okay, so all these things are basically having some number of generations of HFCs which are killing us, and therefore we can see that how this could be maintained well and how we could directly save the future generations from this particular gas emissions which are referred to as the HFCs. So I have said the India has launched the second phase of the program to eliminate the use of HFCs as a part of its commitment under the Montreal Protocol, which requires the complete removal of chemicals that results in ozone depletion and aid global warming. So, but there are various challenges where requirement of systematic is needed, systematization is needed, need for investment is needed, and also increase in demand of refrigeration and air conditioning is also needed. So the overhauling of HCFCs and building new ecosystem does require trained and skilled human resources, and also there are various measures that has been taken by India as a country to set a target so that we can make and enhance the policies associated with emitting the HFCs in the coming times. So today we can see that HFCs which are entirely man-made. So they are primarily manufactured from all this particular purpose which I have said you, basically from refrigeration or air conditioning or something. So because most HFCs are contained with equipment's emission as they are result of wear, faulty maintenance or as well as leakage at the end of the product time. So therefore HFCs has got a very good impact on the respective climate as well as the environment. So therefore if you needs to protect the overall global climate temperature from 1.5 degree to 2 degrees Celsius, then obviously at certain point of time we have to consider about the limitations of making the HFCs very much fruitful in the coming time. Okay, so that was with respect to the HFCs that we can see that we needs to have a proper control on this particular element. Now if I have to say about the wastewater, okay, which is a very important element of the primary resource that we need to have towards having a good facilities of waste that we can see today in our state or in our country. So how to identify wastewater generating system of sources? You can see that from where wastewater is directly generated. So waste resource recovery facility, you can see this is the particular wastewater where I am directly making it in the form of water, in the form of sludge, energy biosolids, or in the form of fertilizers, which is basically phosphorus. So ekini bostu ma sai asu with respect to wastewater. Okay, so wastewater definition to ki boli koise? It is any water that has been adversely affected in quality by anthropogenic influence, mane ki human influence. It originates from a combination of domestic, industrial, commercial or agricultural activities, surface runoff or stormwater, and from sewer inflow or infiltration. So what is the source of wastewater that we can see today? So there are various sources of wastewater. You can see the sources may be domestic wastewater, it may be agricultural effluents, okay, it may be industrial wastewater, it may be hospital sewage. So these are all combining with the natural water is often making the area very sludgy, the area very polluted, and in such a point of time the wastewater directly gets generated. Okay. Then you can see that human excreta, feces and urine mixed with used toilet papers or wipes, black water ho jai, washing water, personal clothes, the grey water or sludge, highway drainage, industrial waste apply hoy, side drainage silts and alkali oil, chemical residues, organic or biodegradable waste, industrial process waters, organic or non-biodegradable water waste, ek gutekini ahi jay. Tarpot extreme pH waste, toxic waste, solid and emulsions, agricultural drainage, produce water from oil and natural gas production. Everything is basically having some number of phenomena associated with wastewater. So here treatment of kotha kole gele ki ase. So today worldwide the majority of the wastewater is neither collected nor treated. Wastewater is a valuable resource, but it is often seen as a burden to be disposed of, and this perception needs to be changed. So therefore, a proper treatment is basically necessary because 80% of the global wastewater is released to the environment without adequate treatment. Okay, so obviously it's very much difficult for us to categorize the wastewater with respect to it because we know that wastewater is very much essential for every other forms of elements that we need to directly extract out from this wastewater. So therefore, wastewater can be treated in the treatment plants, physical, chemical and biological treatment, and multiple wastewater to be treated in sewage treatment plants, use of septic tanks and other on-site waste facilities, which is implementation in rural areas. So activated sludge process utilizing complex biomass of microorganisms to absorb organic matter in wastewater is one of the very important criteria why we need to preserve the wastewater in the coming times. So you can see that today there are various threats that are posed by the untreated wastewater. You can see the threats mainly is the urban and domestic use. So wastewater obviously it is not used for this particular one. Then also for the ecosystem health, wastewater is also very much deteriorating. It's also detrimental. Then we can see human health, its effect. Then we can see about industrial productivity. Okay, so today this also needs some of the cleaner water in the coming times. Then we can see that in various number of social values and tourism, wastewater is totally not needed. Then agricultural productivity, then property values and also commercial fisheries. I can see that this can directly kill the fisheries as well as the system which are associated with commercial fisheries and property values. Okay, so a kotha kini yaad ahi jay about wastewater system. Okay, tar mazot ami jiman khini waterborne diseases ase tar pora bachibo lagibo. It may be supposedly the slum dwellers which are basically having direct access towards the wastewater. So maybe fluorine or concentration bahut beshi thakibo pare. And if fluorine concentration directly goes higher, then obviously it leads to hampering the teeth. Okay, teeth will be. So all these things can happen in this coming period when we are having a good proportion of waste water. Okay, so there are various measurements which have been taken. Need for national water policy, extraction of byproducts, the needs to enforce stricter norms, setting up more wastewater treatment plants, municipality can fund them through municipality bonds. New technology is very much needed. So in this particular element, we can take the help of developed countries like Israel, who is basically treating some number of good seawater or wastewater to make a cleaner source of water. Okay, so if আমি কৰিব পাৰো. Okay, then that is one. Okay, so এতিয়া আহি যাব ইয়াতে next কিহৰ ওপৰত carbon taxing ৰ ওপৰত. Okay, so when I am saying about carbon taxing, you can say that about 75% of all greenhouse gas emissions are CO2 emissions produced through burning fossil fuels. And to generate energy, since the early 2000 carbon emissions have increased because of high growth in the Indian economy. So what is basically known to be as carbon tax? So here is carbon tax. A part of the carbon revenue thus generated can be used for a systematic overhaul of the energy mix, raising the level of energy efficiency through investments in building restorations, grid upgrades, and also industrial efficiency. So you can see the carbon tax, which is basically explained in this particular diagram. Okay, so here dhuniyake bostutu bujwa ase that only 13% of the world's carbon emission come from natural sources. Then the other 87% comes from man-made efforts. Meanwhile, I can directly say that the amount of fossil fuel derived carbon dioxide has increased by 3,24,666%. You can just see the increase. Okay, then you can see that about 159 million tons of carbon pollution per year by 2020 are equivalent to 45 million cars of the roads. So today we can see that this year 300 of the country's biggest pollution will pay $23 per ton of carbon created. Okay, and this will cost $115 million, and passengers will absorb $3.50 increase per sector of their flights because of the tax. Okay, we can say that 50% of all revenue collected will be given back to household to offset the increase in livestock. Also 10 billion other 5 years will be invested into clean energy. Okay, so obviously we have got a goal of creating 175 gigawatt, okay, through various number of renewable energy resources. Okay, and that is very much crucial for us when we need to take a good hold about the situations that we have to take for cleaner energy by killing the formation of every forms of non-clean energy or non-renewable energy in the coming time. So tar karone ami kisuman tax uliyai disu hekinik ami koi asu carbon tax. Next you have to say about that bioenergy with carbon capture and sequestration. So yate mainly amar steps ketaman ase jot biomass absorbs koribo CO2 while growing. Biomass harvested and burned for energy, and in the burning process CO2 is captured and stored in underground geological reservoirs. Okay, so yate CO2 emissions are rising, bringing to average global temperature up with them, and this will have an impact on the environment, human health, and will have economic cost. So extent of this cost will be multiplied in case of inaction on climate change. Okay, so ei kotha kini yate directly ahi jay. Okay, next if you comes towards the national energy policy, so yate amar just kisuman energy kotha kisuman clear ase where how it will help and how what are the targets that will have. Okay, so yate koa goise will end monopoly of coal India, help in commercial mining of coal, and improving the efficiency of discoms, make them profitable. So yate 5-fold increase aibo stripping of coal, okay, and also reduce coal imports by 10% in the 5 years by half by 2030, and that is basically having for a cleaner energy or basically for green energy that we can see. Okay, so there are 4 key objectives of energy policy. Key ase access to affordable prices, improve security and independence, greater sustainability and economic growth. Okay, so jodi ami energy provide koribo laga hoy soboke to etu hotai ki hobo lagibo affordable hobo lagibo mane easy to purchase or easy to get. Asot improve security and independence, security to improve koribo lagibo aru independence to ami bohabo lagibo. Asot greater sustainability, okay, ami sustenance to bohabo lagibo, that is very essential. Aru lastly economic growth, okay, economic growth to ami bohabo lagibo, that is also very very important in this particular case. Okay, so yate 100% electrification karone goi asu. Okay, that is one of the essential thing associated with this particular element. Okay, then NGT, which was established under section 3 of the NGT Act 2010, is established on 18 October 2010 under the National Grid Tribunal Act 2010, and which has been established to provide speedy environmental justice and help reduce the burden of litigation in the higher courts. So NGT, which is basically a statutory body, NGT, which is basically a statutory body, so you know they mainly key kori ase, they are mainly categorizing the burden of the courts in managing every form of affairs associated with the green or greenery. Okay, so সেই বস্তুখিনি চাই আছে। So ইয়াতে ban কৰিছিলে, তো হেতুক আমি justify কৰাইছিলো। So ban on the basis of 3 criteria: general method is not an authorized site for protest, road is marked as residential area, okay, and the protest and agitators cause pollution, particularly noise pollution, because of unregulated use of loudspeakers, amplifiers, public address systems and drums. So এই কথাখিনি আছিলে with respect to this NGT as well as the association of this agreement, which is the agreement on the basis to control or to make the 100% electrification by the end of 2030. So then next ahi jay amar Paris agreement, which is basically known to be the COP, that is the conference of parties. So conference of parties bole kole ami ki buju? So this conference of parties, which is basically by the UNFCCC. Okay, so UNFCCC, supreme decision making body. Okay, and we can see that it meets in Bonn, that is the secretariat. So unless a party offers to host the session, okay, so meets every year unless the party is declared otherwise. Or I can say the first COP, that is the conference of parties, was held in Berlin, that is in Germany, in 1995. So today we can see that COP3, okay, which has happened in 1997 in Japan, COP7 happened in 2001 in around Morocco. So তেনেকে বহুত কিটা COP হল, and recently if I have to say about the COP26, যেটো 2021 হৈছিলে Glasgow in UK, okay, where it announced the net zero targets by 2070, okay, and India also called for phase down coal based power, like they will shortly use the coal based power, okay, and will gradually move towards electrification or towards renewable energy. Also the Glasgow breakthrough agenda by 41 countries plus India was also signed. So recently if I have to say about the COP27 2022, to কোন হৈছিলে এটো Sharm el Sheikh, that is in Egypt, where loss and damage fund our target $3.1 billion plan for early warning systems was declared. Even the G7-led Global Shield Financial Facility for countries suffering climate disasters are a part of this COP27. Also, we can say that here the African Carbon Market Initiative was declared, and therefore also there was an action which was taken for adaptation and resilience, which was an initiative basically for water conservation. Also, Mangrove Alliance, which is in partnership with India to conserve every type of mangrove forest that we have in our country, and also India's long-term low-emission development strategy was basically taken in the Sharm el Sheikh Egypt COP27. Okay, so yate kisuman amar goals asile, that is the Paris Agreement deal of loa goisile, save and increase forest area, make finance consistent, then hold average increase in global temperature, and also limiting temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius, and increasing ability to adapt to climate change. So ei kotha kini amar yate asile in this particular phenomenon. Okay, so today we have to see about the threats and possibility of its consistency or inconsistency. But ami janisilu je during the time of Donald Trump, the president at that point of time, he did not accept it that there is any form of climate change. Okay, so therefore he was directly out of this menace of the COP. But when we can see Joe Biden coming back, so we can see that USA again joined this particular treaty, and therefore today they are directly making a good regulations towards the COP. So therefore today we can see that India is responsible for 6% of the global CO2 emissions. China, the United States and European Union, in terms of the per capita CO2 emissions, 10 other countries are ahead of India. Okay, and therefore India also plans to reduce its carbon emission per unit of GDP by 33 to 35% from 2005 levels over 15 years. And therefore India aims at producing 40% of its installed electricity capacity by 2030 from non-fossil fuels. Okay, so that is one of the informations that we need to share under this particular criteria, because also we need to go carbon neutral by 2070. So this is very right step towards making the country very much reliable towards having a carbon-free country who is not emitting any form of what? Carbon dioxide. So হেতু কাৰণে আমি ইয়াতে লৈছো। তো ইয়াতে কিছুমান এডিশনাল ইনফৰমেশন আছে, বন মিটস এজেন্ডা। সো এটো কিহৰ হয়? ওয়াইড ৰেঞ্জ অফ ইস্যুজ এইমিং এট এডাপটেশন টু ক্লাইমেট চেঞ্জ লোৱা যায়। Okay, so we can see about such things. So today environmental mismanagement in India, you can see that আজি because of the environmental mismanagement কি হৈ আছে? Air pollution হৈ আছে, okay, which means indoor and outdoor, inadequate water sanitation হৈ আছে, chemicals বাঢ়ি আছে, radiation হৈ আছে, community noise হৈ আছে, occupational risks হৈ আছে, then agriculture practices, which is basically because of the inorganic fertilizers or various number of pesticide use, waterborne disease হৈ ইয়াতে বহুতখিনি বেমাৰ হয়, build environments, okay, without any restrictions, we are directly constructing everything, basically on the wetlands, basically on some of the natural regions where some number of risks are there, then also it will directly and slowly leads to climate change. So এই বস্তুখিনি আহি আছিলে with reference to this term because of some of the environmental mismanagement that we can see in our country today. Okay, so in recent years there has been a sustained focus on the role played by the higher judiciary of India and also by bodies like the NGT and also by regulations like the Environmental Protection Act. Okay, so this is the current phenomena that we have to see with respect to this organization. আৰু তাৰ কাৰণে WHO হওক বা বহুতখিনি অৰ্গেনাইজেশ্যন হওক তাহাঁতে লাগি আছে। So তেখেতসকলে আমাৰ থ্ৰুদি they are directly making this number of systems very much under control, and therefore we need to have a proper approach towards making a healthy environment in the society which may help the country in the coming time to adjust with the situations in the phenomena. Okay, so a bostukhini asile in this particular area where we have to discuss about the COP and its respective attributes. But our Article 51(a)(g) mote, it imposes a duty on citizens to protect the environment and also to improve it. Okay, so that is basically one of the fundamental duty that we can see with respect to the provisions mentioned under the phenomenon of the environmental protection. So you can see this is the COP23 which has been changed. Okay, so COP27 lahi gol amar. Okay, so this is just one of the logo that I must show it to you. Okay, so ekhini asile amar conclusion with respect to this one. So you can see even the COP24, these are the logos. Okay, so এইবিলাক বহুতখিনি আমাৰ যিখিনি কনফাৰেন্স অফ পাৰ্টিজ আছিলে, যিখিনি আমাৰ UNFCCC আছিলে, so how this particular UNFCCC is directly governed. So in the World Meteorological Organization আছে, UNFCCC আছে ইয়াতে, United Nations Environment Program আছে ইয়াতে, okay, Conference of Parties আছে ইয়াতে, okay, IPCC Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change কথা আছে. So এই গোটেই বিলাকে এটা process কৰাই আছে so that we can control the challenges that is coming basically because of climate change and how this needs to be regulated, because it is not only India who is basically responsible for emitting CO2, it is basically the whole world. Okay, so এই কথাখিনি ইয়াতে আছিলে which is very much essential with respect to your ones. So আজি ইয়াৰ বহুতখিনি outcomes আমি দেখা পাই গৈছো, because these outcomes are very much essential, because without this part of outcomes you cannot see that যদি আজি আমাৰ এই কামখিনি নহলতেন, যদি আজি আমি এই পাৰ্টিজখিনি এছ'চিয়েট নকৰিলেতেন, that at some point of time we could have seen that this could have directly failed. Okay, and our environment would have much impacted, because if the countries would have not come together and would have talked about environmental or climate change in their respective groups. So এইবিলাকত যদি কথা নাপাতিলেতেন, obviously we as a country, we as a world, we as a humanity would have failed in maintaining the global earth. Okay, so এইখিনি ইয়াতে আমাৰ কথা কোৱা গৈছে, okay, about how India very much focused on this particular one. So today if I have to say about the mineral policy, so ইয়াতে বহুতখিনি mineral policy আছে, demand of national economy, okay, and even there is some of the source of minerals that we can see with respect to international cooperation, and also there are various frameworks associated with mineral policy. So আজি যিমানখিনি আমি minerals ওলাই আছো, which is basically coming out from even the earth's surface, আজি যদি আমি ভিতৰলৈ গৈ থাকো towards the core, towards the mantle, okay, we can find various good number of minerals, because every time minerals are not available plenty in the respective layers. So therefore in this criteria we can see that pillars of this national mineral policy is also very important to protect environment and also to protect India's future in the coming times. Okay, so that is one of the important aspects why we need to focus on this mineral policy, and also why we need to focus on this policies so that we can have a proper analysis of the policies, and also we need to have a proper climatic approach, which is basically said to be the domestic climatic approach, so that we could build a resilient economy, we could build a resilient environment that could be helpful to us in the coming times. Okay, so ekhini amar kotha asle about the committees that we are directly framing today. Okay, so yate even the Basel Convention or kotha ahi jay. So Basel Convention of বহুতখিনি কথা ওলাই, toxicity কথা ওলাই, corrosivity কথা ওলাই, ignorability, reactivity, ecotoxicity, এই গোটেইখিনি কথা আহি যায়। আৰু ইয়াতে আমি কোনখিনি ডিল কৰি আছো, clinical waste, mining waste, industrial waste, agricultural waste, okay, equipment waste, then asbestos of our e-waste, এই গোটেইখিনি আমি ইয়াতে ডিল কৰি আছো। So that is one of the major criteria why we need to have the Basel Convention, okay, which is the control of transboundary movements of hazardous waste, and the disposal was created to protect people and the environment from negative effects of the inappropriate management of hazardous waste worldwide. So a bostukhini amar ahi jay under the Basel Convention, and from this we can see that there are various number of conventions which are basically associated with protecting India's activities through various number of organizations. Okay, তাৰপিছত যদি মই যাওঁ India Cooling Action Plan. So India Cooling Action Plan of কি কৰিছে, India is the first country in the world to develop India Cooling Action Plan, which addresses cooling requirement across sectors and list out actions which can help reduce the cooling demand. That is, the overarching goal is to provide sustainable cooling and thermal comfort for all while securing environmental and socio-economic benefits for the society. So এই বস্তুটো আমাক লাগে in this particular criteria, why we need to have a proper analysis of this cooling plan, okay, and why we need to have this type of cooling action plan so as to reduce the demands across the society and how to make India very much fruitful in the coming times by utilizing the elements of the cooling system. So as you know, what are the objectives from this cooling action plan from 2037 to 38? So 20 to 25% reduction of cooling demands across all sectors. Reduction of refrigerator demand 25 to 30% কমাব লাগিব, 25 to 40% reduction of cooling energy requirements হ'ব লাগিব, and also it could make reduce refrigeration demand by this around 2037-80. তো এইখিনি বস্তু আমাৰ আহি যায় কুলিং অ্যাকশন প্ল্যানৰ মতে, and therefore there are broad objectives. Cooling requirements to আমি চাব লাগিব, okay, then map the technologies available to cater the cooling requirement, okay, and also we need to have innovation so that we can make some of the alternative arrangements towards making the climate very much of cooler and also to reduce the reliance on the cooling activities much more in the coming times. So তাৰ কাৰণে আমাৰ বহুতখিনি environmental social benefits আহিব, so social quality of life increase হ'ব, fair taxation হ'ব লাগিব, economic smart growth হ'ব, cost of living to ভাল হ'ব, okay, then also we can see environmental law এইবিলাক আমাৰ বাঢ়িব, energy efficiency বাঢ়িব, environmental protection, resource management, environmental protection, habitat restoration, preservation, এই বস্তুখিনি আমাৰ আহিব through the process of this particular action management plan, okay. So তাৰ কাৰণে আমাৰ ইয়াতে বহুতখিনি আমাৰ কাম লাগিব, where we are directly focusing on the Atmanirbhar Bharat, Make in India campaigns, to এইবিলাকে আমাক গোটেই resource খিনি help out কৰি দিব so that we can make this thing very much of fructify in the coming times, okay. So এইখিনি আমাৰ আজি process আছিলে about the situations where we are directly discussing some of the static parts. So before that, I just want to tell you that we will be dedicatedly going for the ethics case studies, okay, where I will directly solve various number of dilemmas that you will take while you are directly writing the answers and also maximizing the answers. So also this is from 20 May onwards, so you can scan this code and you can directly get through our respective programs. Also we are also focusing on the full length test series which will be on 17th, 18th and 19th of June, okay. This is the timetable of yours, okay. You can go for both the online and offline mode. Also you could directly come up for a dedicated essay which will be taken, and it will be a very crisp video where only the points will be highlighted, which will be a points 15 minutes per essay so that we can take more and more essays in the coming times. So you can register it by scanning this code, or you can call us by the number 9127515541, okay. So that is all from my side in the static portions SLMC. So we'll see you soon evening in the current affairs. So that's all for today. Thank you and have a good day ahead.